It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job, episode 119. Today, my name is Mike. That's Brian.
Yo.
With us today, very special guest.
Very special.
Very special guest.
Yeah.
My uncle Rick Fisher, all the way from, where you at? Miami, Florida right now? Is that where you're working right now? Miami?
Yeah, I'm in Miami. Yeah.
All right.
This is the famed uncle that works for the huge company out in Florida that we've referenced several times. Well, I say we, you.
A few times,
you.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's clarify that our home office is in Birmingham, Alabama.
There you go.
So,
yeah, well, we need to
Sweet
introduce
home,
you. So
Alabama.
he's the senior superintendent, mainly in what, medical field, right? The medical industry.
Healthcare.
Yeah, healthcare. For Robins and Morton. So thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it. This is a long time in the works. We finally nailed you down.
Yeah, a little nervous. You know, superintendents aren't known to be public speakers. So
that's a lie. You tell me you're going into all these bid meetings all the time, having to get in front of people.
Well, you know, it's different with your peers. I can go into a room with 100 people, you know, my trade partners, but that's a totally different environment. I've done probably, Michael, 100 presentations where you go before the owners of these healthcare facilities for $300-400 million job, and every time I'm a wreck, dude. You know, we will actually go to a hotel and practice these presentations. That's how important they are to us, and we spend a lot of money creating all these models and stuff. You know, because we want the job.
Well, yeah, $300-400 million, nothing to laugh at.
And a lot of it, you know, we try to script a lot of it, and as soon as I get there, I'm off script. So my boss has pretty much learned now that just let him go.
let him flow.
It seems to be working. Why not, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, it seems to work.
So I know the history, but for everybody listening, give us the rundown how you got into the industry, and I know you've kind of bounced around a couple times, but you know the road to where you are now.
I actually started out in the drywall industry. And I had aspirations of being a project manager, right? And sat in an office for about 2 weeks and said, "Oh man, this just isn't good for me." Sitting in an office all day. So my boss told me we got to go out in the field and learn the trade, do it hands-on, and that's exactly what I did. And so not only do I have a working knowledge of it, I also have the hands-on experience. So and then I've gradually I evolved to the operations manager of a large commercial drywall company, which was healthcare orientated. About 90% of our workload was healthcare. And then the two owners had a falling out, frustrated the hell out. I mean, I said, you know what, I'm just going to go to work for somebody and just be a number, right? Let me do my job. And I went to work for a general contractor 25, 30 years ago. And here I am today. Pretty much. That's the Reader's Digest version. So.
And I mean, when we talk healthcare, I mean, it's not, you're not putting up like a 2,500 square foot dialysis center, right? Like,
No. We're doing probably the smallest.
I know this. I want to be able to make sure that you can explain on these things.
Yeah. You know, there's probably the smallest job I've done in the last 15 years is 90 million, biggest 250 million.
Jeez.
We just were awarded a $400 million 5-year project up in Boca Raton. That's actually my next project, hopefully the one that takes me to retirement. But we, you know, in healthcare is not building, and I'm not knocking anybody in any industry because any construction industry is tough. This is a tough industry. You know, we're a bank, right? We finance most of these projects. We wait on our money. But, you know, you have to love what you do to do this. But, you know, what we build healing places. I mean, the building we just finished it up right now is a 6-story bed tower. In that, it's got 96 ICU beds, 96 med surge beds. It has a bone marrow unit on the 6th floor. And then on top of that, all hospitals are redundant. So everything you see in a hospital, whether it's lighting, electrical, water, they have redundant systems on everything. So we actually build energy plants for these. You know, we've got the one we just put in, we put two 25 megawatt generators in there. And to go with the other 6 generators they have and a CEP I built there about 10 years ago. So this facility right now, if a Cat 5 hurricane hit it today, they could go, I think it's 21 days without anything. So in that, after Hurricane Andrew, healthcare facilities realized that even though we had circuits and stuff on life safety, right, we had lighting and all those things, our air conditioning, our HVAC systems weren't on life safety. So even though they could stay in the building after a hurricane and the power was down, everybody else, either sweat. So now basically the entire facility, you know, we've on this particular job here, we put a 30,000 gallon diesel fuel tank, you know, plus they have the redundancy of natural gas. So if they happen to run out, they can mix it, dual mix diesel and gas, or they can go straight natural gas if they happen to lose, you know, go more than 21 days and lose their fuel. And then you have your med gas systems, and I can go on and on and on, you know. One of the probably the coolest things I've ever built is when I did the MCVI here, which is the Miami Cardiovascular Institute. They installed an EMRIS, and basically it's an MRI, but it's in a surgical suite. It's actually in the ORs. So there's 2 neurosurgery suites with this EMRIS in the middle, and it weighs about 80,000 pounds, and it's on tracks. So now if Brian's having brain surgery and the doctor needs to look at something, right, because at a tiny little vessel, right, you know, now they can roll that EMRIS right in, and it goes right up over and scan it right there. But what you don't understand, you guys, sorry, you don't understand.
No, we definitely don't. We need the brain surgeries.
But because, you know, this is all magnetic and stuff, certain things have to shut down or destroy the image. So when that virus rolls into that suite, all kinds of things have to shut down. So, you know, because in that suite, it's all copper shielded. There's all filters on all the power and everything coming through, so it doesn't distort the images. So, you know, building a hospital is very, very, you know, Dad came out, your grandfather came out, and Uncle Jack, and they walked over the projects with me. And Jack's been a builder most of his life. And he was pretty amazed at really what goes into a hospital. It's pretty complicated. And then when you get on an existing campus like this, when you have logistics to deal with, you know, how you're going to continue to move traffic.
Well, especially in downtown Miami too, right? I mean, with the congestion and everything else.
And, you know, how you're going to get people in and out because, you know, and then we have to deal with ICRA, which is infection control. So that means if we go into any part of the existing facility, we have to put temporary partitions up. And luckily the technology has evolved to the point we use a product called EdgeGuard, which is a temporary partition already packaged. We can order it now. And then we have to create a negative space. First, we have to create an anteroom, and then we have to create a negative space. So anything we do, if we create dust or anything, doesn't escape that room and harm a patient, right? Because Michael, you know, they're pushing your daughter down the hallway, main corridor of a hallway, and a construction worker drops a ceiling tile on her. You're not going to be happy about that, right? So, you know, that's another thing. And every hospital now has their own infection control department. They inspect it. I think in California, you guys have OSHPD, which is your Health Care Administration, which inspects constructions and stuff. Here we have ACA, which is the Agency for Healthcare Administration. So not only do we have to deal with county and city inspectors, we have to deal with ACA. And they come in when we get done and they test everything, every smoke head, every outlet, fire alarm, elevators, fall, you name it, fall test on elevators, generators. You know, the rule is when they drop power here, that generator's got to be on within 10 seconds and everything functioning. So, you know, building a hospital is a massive process. So,
how much of this stuff have you kind of just learned along the way versus education or classes or where are you? I mean,
I don't think you can learn it in a school. You know, you can learn the basics, you can learn how to read blueprints and stuff like that. But you'll find with me, I drive my jobs my boss loves me. I'm probably the most positive. I'll give you a perfect example. You're looking at me and I'm in my office in a construction trailer, right? If you were to come to this job site and come into my construction trailer, it's a 5-wide. It's it's got like 14 offices in it and a big conference room. It's carpeted. Most construction trailers are VCT tiles, and over time they get dirty and nasty. And no, my girl vacuums this carpet twice a day. We have a main lobby where I painted the wall bright red, which is Robins Morton colors, and I had a stainless steel emblem made of our logo and put on that wall by the receptionist desk. So when you walk in, you feel like you're walking into an office building, not a construction trailer. Yeah. And that's not by accident, right? So when my guys get to work in the morning, I want them to be here. I want them to be comfortable coming here. Most of all, I want them happy, right? So I have a kid here named Brett Jacobs of internships with universities. So we take these interns and we start to give them that hands-on experience while they're still in college. And then obviously if we like them, we hire them, or we try to hire them.
Right.
So Brett came to work for me, and he was an intern out of Florida International, FIU here, and great kid, just a phenomenal kid. I keep telling him he's going to be the next CEO of the company, but he came to work for us here, and I'm one of those guys, I just tell you to go do it. I'll hand you a set of drawings and say, go do it, right? In that, I gave him the site work on the job we're on right now. And I told him there are no dumb questions. You learn by experience. If you don't know, come and ask me. We'll figure it out, right? So he did really, really good on the site work. And we really don't finish the site work till the end of the job, but we're about 80%. We're going vertical now with the building. The structure's pretty much up. So I hand him the precast drawings, and his mouth dropped. Rick, I've never done precast. I said, well, it'll look good on your resume then, huh? And so, again, he excelled at it. And to me, that's really the key to my job. When I have 7 or 8 superintendents working underneath me, one, always drive the positive. I have to do that and you got to love what you do, Mike and Brian. I love what I do. I love putting, I'm up at 4:00 every morning. I don't need an alarm clock because I love what I do. I lace my boots up and I come to work. I'm usually the first one here every morning. Now, I'm 63 years old now. I ain't going to be the last one here every night.
With grandkids at home and all those other things, right? Yeah.
And I very rarely work a weekend anymore unless we're doing some critical, shutdown. We're shutting down the med gas to the hospital or something. But other than that, I empower these kids to do their job. And my bosses have always recognized that. And they send people to this job site. In fact, we had a kid who works for another company we're trying to hire now. They sent him to this job site yesterday.
You say kids, but these guys are probably like their mid-30s, right? Like
25, 30 years old. Yeah. To me, they're kids, right? But you know what? Let me tell you about these kids. This generation, that generation, they cease to amaze me. With the technologies that has evolved in construction, from BIM modeling to 3D scanning, we're fabricating med gas head walls off site now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anything, because it's a controlled environment and the quality is much better, right? When you can control the environment. So the technology has evolved exponentially. It's crazy how fast it's evolving in this industry.
Well, that's kind of something we want to touch on, though. Like, obviously being the old guy, right? And you've got all these kids, as you call them, 25, 30 years old that are coming up. That gap in from what it was when you started, right, and what the job looked like when you were doing it at that age versus what it is now. Yeah. How obviously you seem like somebody who's adapted well, right? And there's guys your age in this industry that haven't. What were some of the things that kind of were those things that you were forced to do, or did you welcome them, or how did that transition kind of work out through this?
For me, it's always been, look at it first. Don't judge it till you try it. And I'll give you a perfect example. Here at our company, we have a program called Building Forward. And basically, so in that, we don't call our most people call them subcontractors. They're not subcontractors to us. They're our trade partners. They have just as much ownership in the success of these projects as we do, right? So in that, and I'll give you a perfect example. This morning, my MEP guy, you know, their contract out here is $29-30 million, right, to do the HVAC systems and plumbing and stuff out here. He came to me this morning because we're almost wrapped up, and he thanked me, and he basically said, Robins Morton is like no other general contractor we work for. He goes, you guys really strive to make us successful. And his name's Ricky. And I said, Ricky, I can't tell you how much, I appreciate that, because that really speaks volumes of this team and how we do things. But if you were to go into our conference room right now, you would see boards on the wall. And these boards are all lined, and we create activities on those boards. And those activities relate directly to the schedule. Now, we can't put every activity on the schedule in one room, or I'd have to get the 100,000 square foot. So what we do is we highlight the critical activities that happen that week, and we do it for every trade. So we list those activities, and it may be 15, 20 activities for, let's say, the HVAC guy, maybe 40 activities. And every morning at 8:15, and this was the hard part we had, was getting the trade partners to buy into this, taking this time out of their day. And we pick 8:15 because we start at 7. Get your guys going, come into the trailer, and we go through these boards every day. Now, they man load this board. So let's say the drywall guy says he's going to be framing soffits, south side, level 4, right? Well, how many guys are you going to have that week, and what percentage are you going to be complete, right? We meet every day at 8:15, and we go through all those boards in 30 minutes, but we get a true snapshot of where we are every single day, and it lets us direct people. If we realize when we're looking at these boards that the plumber's in the way of my framer, we can react to that right then, versus me getting a phone call, guys yelling in the field, and at first the trade partners push back, but once we get into a big job, a lot of these guys are starting to incorporate it into their own company now, the way they do business, right? And it's been very successful to us, and again, it's part of a program we have called Building Forward, which is new technologies and better ways, lean building, so. And
well, I have to imagine something like that. Obviously, like you said, it's probably kind of button heads a little bit, or get them to get on board, but it's got to help them be more efficient, not only on your job, but in the future as well, right? Being able to,
absolutely.
You're kind of teaching them, how to be more efficient there.
Yeah, well, these guys pretty much know what they're doing, or they want to be on my job. But what it does is, like I said, it gives you a snapshot every day of where you are. Then we get to the end of the week on Friday mornings, and we said, all right, you were supposed to be framing soffits, right, south side level 4, and you said you'd be 80% done this week. Where are you at? I made 80%. We check it off. We reached our goal for that week for that particular activity. Well, I only did 60%. Well, why? Well, we discovered that this was in the way, or something had to be modified. So we can now attack that immediately, whether we have to generate an RFI, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it works out. Now, we try to reach about 80% of our goals every week, because we know it's impossible to reach all those goals. But again, when you sit in these things, they're all driven by, I won't let a project manager in them. It's all superintendents and stuff, because project managers, they're admin people, and not that they don't know the field, but I want the people doing the work talking to me, right? So in that, they you can watch these guys grow, and they start communicating with each other right there in that meeting. And again, we're in and out in 30 minutes, and it's all driven from a positive. There's no yelling, no screaming, no this butt heads. I was going to say another word. This butt head's in my way. You know what I mean? There is none of that. It's a very civil meeting, in and out 30 minutes, and we have a snapshot where we are. And that's really our culture at Robins and Morton. I think we're probably different than most general contractors in the country. One, because of our Building Forward program. 2, the company really cares about its employees. I mean, they really take care of us. And I'm not saying that just because I work for Robins and Morton and Bill Morton may see this. I'm saying it because it's a fact. I love working for this company. And for me to say that is really saying a lot. Their safety, I don't know if you guys, I don't know if I ever told you this or not, Mike. when I was with Bovis, I had an accountant who worked for me whose son had just graduated high school, and his name was Jeremy. His picture's right here on my wall. And the kid was a little lost, had no direction. And she said, "Hey, is there any chance you give Jeremy a job?" And I said, "Well, what's going on?" And she told me he had a chip on his shoulder, typical 18-year-old, right? So I said, "Yeah, bring him in. Let me talk to him." Well, this little kid had a chip on his shoulder. I mean, a big chip on his shoulder. So I hired him. So for the next 6 months, I literally had him doing the dirtiest, nastiest jobs I could find. But you know what? 3 years later, he was in our safety department at Bovis growing. He was going to become a safety director for Bovis, right? But he was killed in a crane accident in Miami, probably 12th March of, I can't remember the exact day. He was 21 years old.
Oh, man.
So that kind of sticks with you, you know what I mean? So since then, safety to me, again, as it has evolved through the years, years ago it was my way or the highway. It's not like that anymore. If you have that kind of mentality, one, you're never going to gain the respect of these guys ever. Yeah. If you don't believe it, believe me, they know it, and they're never going to believe it, right? So again, our safety is to me second to none, and we drive it all again from a positive, right? So we have a theme now, our HP, which is our human performance. We've started about a year ago, and I'm a champion in that. I help teach the courses and stuff for the company, and basically it's trying to figure out why people do the things they do. What is the human factor, and why did you decide to put yourself at risk, right?
Yeah.
So when we see somebody doing something wrong, we don't yell and scream at them anymore and bring them into the office and read them the riot act. We bring them in, we sit them down. First, we get them comfortable, and then we start talking about, all right, this is the right way to do it. And we put all the necessary tools to do it the right way, whether it's fall protection, harness, whatever you needed to do that activity. This is the right way. So now let's start with your day and let's figure out where we missed something, right?
Where you made the decision not to follow that. Yeah.
Thank you. Where the decision was made. And once we drill that down and we find that, we shake their hands and we try to make them understand that, listen, someone's expecting you home tonight, right? Whether it's your child, your mother, somebody's expecting you home, and don't let anybody ever put you at risk, And then now over the years, our trade partners, you can see, again, they're taking our safety program and taking it to their companies now, right? Because Mike, this job, I think I topped out about 500 guys. I think I had 500 guys on this job when we were full bore. I'd walk this job every day, and I say good morning to everybody, right? I make a point, stop, hey, good morning. I don't need to know your life history, but you show these guys that you are passionate and you do care, right? So in that, I've been fortunate. I have never had in my 40 years, and even when I was a hardcore superintendent, but in the last 15 years, whatever it was since Jeremy passed away, I've turned a softer side, which now the whole industry is turning to a softer side when it comes to safety. These guys, they respond to that. They see it. We had a safety lunch last Friday, and I gave away probably $1,000 in cash, a bunch of gift cards, not because I have to. It's a way of me showing these guys, these are the little things I can do because you choose to do the right thing, right? And that's what really safety is about, the choices you make.
Yeah.
The other thing about safety that a lot of people don't understand is the fact that I don't know what's going on in your life. Brian could have a 2-year-old daughter at home with leukemia. You think that weighs on his mind?
Well, yeah.
Yep.
So now that guy's got to come to work and go 200 feet in the air at the tip of a crane with that on his mind. Those are the ones that are really hard to, because, you don't want to delve that deep into somebody's personal life, but you need to take a close look at people, what their demeanors are, right? In the mornings. And we have a job-specific task form that our trade partners fill out every morning, with hot work permits, job-specific. So if they're doing a specific task, we don't want the superintendents filling that out. We want the guys working who are actually performing the work to do that. And that you can weed out some of that, what I was just talking about. Excuse me. You gave me your cough, Mike. I hope you're out.
The Fisher cough.
Yeah. So hopefully we can weed some of that out during that when we review those tasks, specific tasks, forms. Excuse me. But it's tough. Safety's hard. But if you don't believe it and you don't stand behind it, and then you're never going to get the respect of the guys, and they're never going to.
Well, I love the approaching it from the positive aspect. They kind of like a little parenting secret that not a lot of people know, or that gets passed along every once in a while is the same kind of thing, right? The reinforcing the positive, right? So you 2-year-old holding a cup of milk, rather than saying don't spill that, don't spill that, don't spill that. The unconscious mind doesn't understand the word no or don't. So most of the time they're, again, subconsciously just thinking spill.
Right.
Thinking about
rather than just hold on to that glass of milk tight, or you know what I mean, or whatever you want to say to the opposite. But it's the same kind of concept, right? Rather than don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. It's why did you do this, and then let's make it a better decision next time, and figure out how to.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And like when I went up to Birmingham and I did the 4 days of training for this human performance to be a champion with the company, I get there the first morning again. I'm there early because I'm up at 4. Well, Robin Savage, who's our COO, we have 2 guys in charge of this company, basically Bill Morton, Robin Savage. They're the 2 guys who really run Robins Morton. All of a sudden he's there at 7:00 in the morning, and he took the class with us for 4 days. He's the COO of a $1 billion company. He doesn't need to be, but that's how passionate they are about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? That we take these values and move them forward. So I'll tell you a little story about safety. I had an iron worker, not this particular job, but the last one I was on. And he refused to wear his safety glasses, which is mandatory on all our projects. And so one of my superintendents came in and basically told me, listen, I threw this guy off the job today. I've told him 4 or 5 times to wear safety glasses. I've written him up. He's gone. I said, Dennis, that's fine. I'm never going to question you. I got you. Don't worry about it. So later that afternoon, I got a call from the ironwork, the company, his boss, and said, hey, listen, this is my best guy. He's got 5 kids at home. He really needs to work. And I said, listen, I don't want to put anybody out of work, but I'm not going to override my superintendent. He made a decision, and we're going to stick to it. Now, I will call him, and if you guys want to meet tomorrow morning, come into the office, bring him and you, and we'll bring Dennis in, my superintendent, and we'll sit down and talk. And we'll see how it goes from there. So we set up the meeting for the next morning, and they came in, and the iron worker, the guy who refused to wear his glasses. I'm sorry, it wasn't glasses. That's how you know you're getting old. He refused to tie off.
Okay.
Which is a big
even worse. Yeah.
A lot worse.
Yeah.
And he refused to. That's how you know you're getting old, right?
The fish was this big. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. It actually was a little bigger. So anyway, he keeps telling me he's sorry. He's sorry. And Dennis is in the room with us, and his boss is there. And I said, well, what are you sorry for? Well, I'm sorry I didn't tie off. And I said, is that really what you should be apologizing for? And I said, let me ask you something. Are you married? He goes, yeah, I'm married. I said, you got kids? Now I had him. He lit up.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I got 5 boys at home. And I'm like, 5 boys? So now we started talking about his sons, the age, little league, right? So I took it off of all that pressure off of him that he was going to get hammered. So now he's talking to me about his sons. Now I get him to open up, right? And I said, let me ask you something. Is your wife at home? And he goes, yeah. I said, let's give her a call. And he goes, what? So he gave me the number, and I called his wife, and his wife answered the phone, and I said, hey, Mrs. Johnson, this is Rick Fisher, Senior Superintendent, and I just want to let you know that you need to prepare yourself for the day that Bill's not coming home. and you need to prepare those boys for the day Bill's not coming home. And she goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, Bill refuses to tie off when he's at height.
You got the real boss.
So I didn't have to say any more. I looked across the table, and he was crying. The ironworker was actually crying. I said, you know what? I appreciate your time. And I said, I think he gets it, right? So I hung up the phone. We talked a little bit more. You know, from that day on, not only was he one of the safest guys on the job, but he was a mentor.
I was going to say, then he's out there preaching it to other guys. Yeah.
About family. Yeah. You know, you've got a daughter, a son, somebody's expecting you home today, right? So that was one of, probably the best stories of my life in this industry, right? I kind of shocked him when I called his wife, but
I can imagine, yeah.
But
that's awesome.
So
if we can go back a little bit, I want you to kind of speak to that relationship you guys have with your trade partners. I mean, obviously, people that we've talked to, the generals, and everybody wants to take care of their subcontractors, and they all want to have those great relationships. But I mean, obviously, it sounds like you guys are taking it to the next level. Are there some things you guys know that you're doing to kind of maintain those relationships or create those relationships that might be different than others in the industry?
Well, I think with us, it's a mindset, Mike. It's a culture, right? Be positive. Treat them like people, and don't misunderstand me. This is a brutal business. Construction is a brutal business. I'll tell you right now, it is hard. It is hard. We deal with owners that are just brutal. I mean, and so in that, we have contracts with all our trade partners, and some of these guys get massive contracts. So our work starts day one creating their scope, right? We don't want gray areas. We don't want scope gaps, right? Because that's when the contest really starts. Well, I didn't have this, right? Yeah, but right. Your contract says you have a complete system kind of thing. Well, we want a change order, right? Now the owner gets upset because we're creating change orders. So that starts from day one. The other thing is I tell my guys, everybody who comes on my job site all the time, say what you mean what you say, and we'll get along just fine, right? Don't lie to me. Don't mislead me. We help them develop our schedules, right? And years ago, we as GCs, we used to create the schedules, and that was it, right? If we said September 1st, we expect you done September 1st. Now we sit down with our trade partners, and we actually develop schedules as a team, right? And it's a win-win for us because at the end of the day, we get the date, but they're the ones who help develop it, so they can't say
they have a little ownership, and they feel like
exactly.
They weren't just told what to do; that they had some input in it. And yeah.
And the other thing we stress is, this business doesn't have to be adversarial. People choose to make it that way.
This is so many people, yeah.
Yeah. At Robins and Morton, we don't. I mean, don't misunderstand me. I'm not perfect. I still have my moments, right? Where I jump right in a guy's crap. Almost a bad word again.
We're listed as explicit.
Yeah, you can say the bad word if you want.
Okay. Right.
I don't know about your bosses, how they feel, but
we all still have our moments, but this doesn't have to be adversarial. Let's be problem solvers, right? And we also work with our trade partners. If they do miss something, we don't want to hurt anybody. If in a perfect world doing what we do, if I could take the same team from job to job, that would be the best world that would be phenomenal for me from a standpoint like I understand them, they understand me. But every time we go to a new project, everything has to be approved by the owner, right? We have to give them 3 bids from 3 qualified trade partners, and then we sit down with the owner. We do scope review with the owner, and then the owner at the end of the day, we recommend, but they they pick who and usually it's cost driven, right?
Right.
And
right.
In construction, from a cost driven standpoint, you might not want to always take the lowest guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we understand that going in. Our trade partners understand that going in. I think probably the most heated I get is in scheduling meetings with the trade partners. If they start slipping on something, and this last year's been really, really rough with COVID because material deliveries, everything has been slowed down, right? And I mean, we're doing a remodel here Anthony's actually running it over in the main building. We took a 40-year-old building, the floors, 5 of the floors, and we redid them in the heart of COVID. Well, in the middle of that, one of our electricians tested positive for COVID. So we had to shut the job down for 2 weeks. We sanitized everything, and then everybody had to get tested before, and cleared before we could bring them back on. So we lost 2 weeks on that job. In that, we still made schedule, right? And that's because the trade partners stepped up, and we worked as a team to make that happen. The project that we just finished up right now, because ICU beds, because of COVID, are in demand everywhere across the country right now. Originally, our second floor in this building was a med surge. They came to us just before we started that floor, probably a year ago, and said, "Hey, we want to switch this to ICU." When COVID was getting, we said, "Fine." Well, we delivered that floor 2 months early, right? And that's not by accident. That's because you have trade partners who truly believe in us, and we're going to support them across the board. And if I ask you to do something, and they need to be compensated for it, they're going to be compensated for it. But the flip side of that is, if it's yours to do, I expect you to do it, right? But I guess I'm probably sounding a little bit redundant here, but I can't say positive enough. Positive, right? And I don't say that word just to say it. I say it because I believe it, right? These guys know when I come here in the morning, I'm glad to be here. I got a smile on my face, you know what I mean? And they see that, and that spreads like wildfire, you know what I mean? If I come in with a shitty attitude, I can say that. That attitude will spread like wildfire, right? And there's nothing worse on a project of this magnitude is attitude, and it will spread fast. So, we encourage them. My safety guy goes out in the field. If he sees somebody doing, not on this particular job, but jobs, I have a new safety guy on this particular job. But William, one of my safety guys, he sees a guy doing something right, he flips him a silver dollar. You know what I mean?
Just walks around with a pocket full of them?
And he rewards them. Not for doing he doesn't pick on people for doing the wrong thing. He rewards people for doing the right thing.
Right.
And again, that snowballs, because the guy standing next to the guy who got the silver dollar says, "Hey, I want one of those." So, not saying he's doing anything wrong, but now he's going to be focused even more to do the right thing.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe speak to COVID a little bit. I mean, from California, you guys in Florida are just willy-nilly out there, just doing whatever the hell you want. But I got to imagine it's a little bit different on projects,
on
especially what you guys are doing.
Healthcare.
Yeah. So, I mean, outside of like some delays and stuff, obviously changes had to be made. I mean, what was the implementation process like for a lot of that?
It started with, the hospital started screening. First, no visitors at the hospitals, right? And then they started screening everybody, which going into the facility, take your temperature, ask you questions, da-da-da-da-da. So when this first started, we were like, well, how are you going to do us? How do we get 100, 150, 200 people through your doors every morning, right? Because you do the math. If I'm out there for an hour with 100 guys, you, Mr. Owner, have lost 100 hours of production time, right? So the project managers on this campus are they're very understanding. So we sat down with them and we said, listen, we can access the building from stair 5, right? And we can isolate us from your patient and staff population by doing that. In that, we will do our own testing. So we bought thermometers. My safety guy went through the protocols, everything you need to do, the questions you need to ask, right? And, we have to mask all the time, right? So we have a girl who sits at the stairwell every day. Actually, we're doing another job. So we have 2 points we monitor now. They have a thermometer. They take everybody's temperature before they go into the building. And, and so far it's worked well. The main project here, we haven't missed one day with COVID. I mean, I've had 6 people in my trailer get it. You know what I mean? And we've had some people in the field get it. And we respond to that. We do contact tracing.
Yeah.
And we start chasing it down. If you were around him, you got to go get tested. Right? So because if we didn't do that, Michael, our job, if it would probably spread here like wildfire, right?
And
we'd be out of business. So We've done everything possible that we can do. We have followed the hospital's protocol to a T, and it's worked really, really well for us. So,
what about from from an employee morale standpoint? I mean, it sounds like you guys haven't really lost any time, right? So I guess that might be a little bit.
We lost 2 weeks in aesthetics, and we were panicking a little bit about that. But from that standpoint, no. The biggest thing that I found here is the fear of the COVID. Not so much the virus itself, but the fear is if my sister's uncle got it, so I'm next. You know what I mean? And a lot of people had that mindset, and we were like, wait a minute. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? You have to be within a certain distance of people. Right. But there was a big fear factor, and that's probably the biggest thing we had to deal with, especially in the Latin. They seem to they're very family orientated, which is a great thing because I'm family orientated. But if they had the fear of taking that home to their families.
Yeah. Right. Especially like multi-generational. Yep.
Exactly. And and that's it. They live together multi-generationally. The moms and dad and the kids and the grandkids all live together. And because they love it. That's the life they love, just like at my house, right?
I was going to say, you got the same thing, right?
You got the same thing, right? So my biggest fear was taking it home to my grandchildren, right? And because Jenny's a nurse, she kept telling me, Dad, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. With the protocols you have in place, you're doing more than most of the people, right?
Right.
So, luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had any issues. And we have had issues here, but I think we caught them in time because of the protocols we do have, and we circumvented it, and we've continued to push forward. So,
very cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, what's down the road? How long are you on this job? What's that next job that you're looking for?
I am going to Boca Raton. It's a Boca Raton Regional Hospital. It is a expansion. There's a hospital there already, a 9-story. We're going to build 2 new bed towers, an L shape right in front of the existing. And we're going to build a brand new energy CEP for them. And we're going to decommission the existing CEP. So that means we have to get all of our systems online, get them tied into the existing hospital. Chilled water, steam, I can go on and on and on. All those systems, which sounds easy when I talk about it. Believe me, everything's
you just hooked the two together, right?
Just snap. So, and then once the CEP's online, then we'll start vertical on the bed tower. And it looks like it's about a probably 4 to 5 year project. It's a good sized project. Some of the issues I have there is the facility is landlocked. There is no room. Because we figure we're going to top out there with about 900 people.
Jeez, man.
So, even if people rode together, where do I park 700 cars?
Right.
So that I'm struggling with that right now. I went up and I've met with the college up there, FAU, Florida Atlantic University's up there, and see, because they have a lot of land, see if we can lease some of their parking. I've got
just shuttle them in or what?
Yeah, we'll bus jobs all the time when it gets like that. But it's a very complicated, project. Probably one of the most complicated I've done from a logistics standpoint, and exactly what we're doing up there. But again, it's a challenge, and that's what we in this industry live for.
Yeah. Well, so maybe walk me through the process, because I mean, obviously, I would imagine most of it is experience, but like, how do you think about those things? Or like, is there some sort of like checklist you use, or like, most of those things, like, you just don't know what you don't know, right?
Well, see, I'm old school, man. So they say, do a logistics plan. And I wish I had one here handy that I could show you. And I just grab the drawings, grab the site plan, and in my mind, I start, how am I going to move traffic? How am I going to move staff? How am I going to move patients, right? How am I going to get construction in? How am I going to keep people away from cranes? On and on and on and on and on, right? So I draw that on paper, and I start highlighting it, and I write notes, stop sign, flagman, wayfinding, right? Because the worst thing we do is you guys go to work every morning, right? You get up, drive down your road, you make a left, 2 rights, boom, you're in your parking spot. And you've done that for years. Now I'm going to change a nurse's habit who's been doing that for 30 years, right? Overnight. So the first thing I have to do is start creating those new habits. And that's the first thing I push for with the owners is let me start the enabling as soon as I can, which is on this particular job, I'm changing both entrances to the hospital. So the clear space so we can.
So you start that weeks before you guys even need it, just to change the habits.
We try to. Not all owners buy into it, right? but I mean, we're real close to final drawings on this project. But the logistics plan's in place. The site engineer has it. He's putting it on his drawing, so everybody's bought into it. And then once I get it hand drawn, I take it over to my IT department, which is one of my APMs, assistant project manager. I think he's a project engineer. I take it to him and say, hey, clean this up. And he does the computer work. So, I'm so old school, and don't laugh at me. Let me grab something here.
He's just stepped away from the mic for a second.
Yeah, I just
there you go. Yeah. So, all the audio guys are like, where did he go?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that, what this particular project, not only are we building the new bed towers and the new CEP, we're renovating probably about 80% of the existing facility. But before we can start the new tower, we have to demo about a quarter of the existing building. Their main lobby coming into the building has to be demoed so we can build the new building. So in that, they have to move people, right? So right there is the doctor's lounge. Well, what do you do with the doctor's lounge so we can demo this, right? Oh, we have to find space for them. Well, we'll put them in the library. All right. So now we have to renovate that library to make it a doctor's lounge. This is before we really can ever start construction. So in that, what I do is I finally got the phasing plans from the architect because they continue to develop. I go through, don't laugh because I'm not a computer guy. I do it paper.
I love it.
So when you look at this, you're going to see these activities, which are like library, which is the new doctor's dining, pharmacy, which is we now have to put temporary partitions up there to separate us from the new construction. The volunteers for the hospital now becomes a sleep room for the doctors. The cath lab is being converted into a temporary electrical room. So I start figuring out the logic in that, right? And then the logic is A has to move before B can move, before C can move, right?
Yep.
And then I start asking the questions to the architect. When we develop these, are these all new finishes? Because once I know that, then I can really start developing a schedule, right?
Yeah.
Start putting up because when I get this particular job, the schedule will probably be 200, 250 pages. There'll be that many activities, probably, anywhere from 80 activities to 100 activities on a page on our typical schedule. So that's how I start. The young guys give me crap about it because I do it by pencil, but I can build it in my mind faster than I can type it in a computer. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but and that's what I do. I build the logic first. How is it going to flow? Because in construction, the one thing you got to have on a jobs of this magnitude is flow.
Yeah.
If it's not flowing, if you have to stop for anything, it not only does it put the brakes on what you're doing, it puts the brakes on everything.
Yeah.
So flow is everything. So I start building that logic, start creating the flow, and then I'll start building schedules from there. So, and I have a ton of mechanical pencils. Just so
oh man, that's awesome.
A lot of
man.
erasers.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Well, we appreciate it. We'll let you run and get back to it. And
I appreciate it.
No, man, it's been awesome.
Boring or anything?
No, this was.
I loved every minute of it.
It was fun, man.
I appreciate that, man.
No, man,
I was a little nervous doing that, but you guys made me feel very comfortable.
Was this your first podcast?
Well, I did an interview for the company where you saw me on.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, but this is foreign territory for me, man.
Oh, man, it was good. Well,
I couldn't tell. You're great.
Can't wait to blast it all over the family too. Yeah,
it's a Fisher trait, right? It's funny you say that, Brian, because the kid I was telling you about that came in yesterday from the college.
Yeah.
I went into Ron's office, who's our project director, and I went in there and I was telling him what a great company this is to work for. And and I was telling him, I'm not saying that just because I work here. I've been doing this for 40 years. You know what I mean? And you're not going to find a better company to work for. And I went through some of the reasons why I think that. Positive, look at the trailer, right? Some of the things we talked about. Jonathan Peavy, who's one of our senior project managers, who's trying to hire the guy, is sitting in a chair right next to me, and he looked at me and he looked at Ron. He goes, "Are you filming this?"
Yeah, now you got a 45-minute long commercial for Robins Morton. Yeah, you're good to go, man. Just make sure you get paid when they start putting you all over billboards and on the commercials.
I won't let that happen. They are an awesome company, great people, probably the best people I've ever worked with in this industry. To get promoted here, that's one of the few complaints we get is the younger guys say, "Hey, my buddy went to work for another contractor and he's already an APM assistant project manager. I'm still a field engineer." And the difference between us and that other company, we promote you when you're ready to be promoted, so you can succeed. Other companies promote you
when they need you. Or they need you. And they're probably going to dump you if they don't need you anymore. And, Yeah.
So that's again, one of the things that probably separates that. But once they see that, and our turnover is probably, it's got to be one of the smallest in the industry. It really does. And let me get one more plug in. My son, your cousin, he is a project manager for Robins Morton, and we have a thing called Procore, which we manage all of our jobs on. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Procore. Yep. He is a Procore trader champion for the company, and I'm going to get him to watch this just so I can bring a tear to his eye and tell him, "Daddy loves you, and I'm very proud of you."
Well, and you breezed by it a little bit ago when you said Anthony was running the tower remodel or over there, but that's his son-in-law also.
It's funny because somebody came into my office today and Anthony was out there and my safety guy looks at me, he goes, "Well, I was talking to your son." I said, whoa, back up. He's not my son-in-law when we're here. And Anthony was standing right there, and I said, because I will fire him just as fast as anybody else. Anthony looked at Miguel and goes, "You would too."
All right, man. We'll say hi to everybody for us. Stay safe out there.
I appreciate it, fellas.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Appreciate
Love
it.
you.
When you're going to play this, please.
Yeah,
Yes,
it'll
sir.
be Friday.
Yeah,
we'll
week from Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll text you then. We'll send it to you and stuff.
All right, guys. Be safe.
All right, man.
Love you,
Have a good one. Love you.
Said hi.
Will do.
See you. Thanks, Brian.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.